And then it got pretty hot and heavy, and I left town. And I thought I was going into hiding. So I went out to New Hampshire to a 200-acre farm that a friend of mine has. And I was followed across the New York Thruway for 75 miles by a New York Highway patrolman. I'd been in New Hampshire 2 days before I got arrested. And they get the local guys involved in this stuff, see? And then the helicopters came around out there. Well, about a year ago, Mother Mary entered this project. And when she entered this project, I began to get some meaning, some protection, and so forth. He's telling me time's up, but he doesn't know I'm introducing the next speaker right now. That's true. And so things got hot and heavy, and a woman who had heard me speak at the Danville Dowsers had written me a letter in Denver, and I just threw it in boxes when I left. So 3 months after she'd written the letter, I opened this letter, and she wanted a copy of the Mother Mary thing, and so I phoned her and apologized for the stuff being so late. So we got to talking, and I said, what do you do? And she started saying some strange stuff. And she said, she was in Staten Island. She says, I want to work on you. Oh, so she did. And I was impressed with what she did. Because number one, she removed an implant from my cheek here, which is how they'd been following me around. I figured I had to get some more of this treatment, so I got in the car and went down to Staten Island and worked with her. The results were amazing. The mind control stuff that had been all over me, she was stripping away just like nobody's business. And so I went back up to Saranac, where I worked with a veterinarian, incidentally. Major surgeries with animals with Dr. Hannah McCormick. The bleeding stops in 6 seconds, and they have 60 to 80% healing in 10 to 12 minutes. That's how quick it is. So I got back up there with Hannah over the New Year's, and I went back to the farm, and I decided I wasn't supposed to be there, and I went back down to have another round with a woman by the name of Elizabeth Mass. And she changed my life. And I knew at that time that she would be here speaking. But there weren't any openings. No room at the inn, remember that? Remember Dean, he said he had. So cancellation. So it's with a great privilege to introduce to you Elizabeth Mass from Staten Island.
Switch microphones here.
One second. Excuse me. Well, are you all talked out yet? No? Good. Good. Okay. Excuse me. We don't need to get this on camera. Well, it's part of being human, isn't it? Isn't that the truth? We know all this great stuff, and in the end, the bottom line is we're still human, more or less. At least some of us are. I don't know. Now, I'm not too sure about this room, to tell you the truth. I have to revise that statement. I want to thank Don for that wonderful introduction. It was a pleasure to work with him, and I learned a great deal from my work with him, as I learned from everyone. I'd like to share with you a little of the kind of work that I do. And I think to begin with, I'd like to give you a sample of a little exercise that comes from a system known as Brain Gym. And right, Brain Gym, exercise for the brain. It's a way to keep yourself alert when you're listening to speakers. How about that, okay? Just in case you're kind of getting a little foggy here. It's a very simple little acupressure technique, which you're all welcome to do, I invite you to, please do it, please. Start at the top of your ears and pinch the outer edges of your ears and not gently, actually pretty strongly massage the entire outer shell of your ear all the way down to the earlobe, okay? Starting at the top closest to your head and really pinching that, stimulate it all the way around and down to the very bottom. Do it a couple of times and just notice what you're feeling as you do that. Just notice that. Anybody notice anything? It hurts. Well, a little pain, you know. No pain, no gain? I don't believe that. Anybody notice anything happening in your head? You feel anything? Yeah? See, when you do this, you're actually stimulating acupuncture points that will awaken brain energies, help you to remember better, think, concentrate, and above all, listen better. Because the listening of the ears affects directly your memory, your ability to recall, your ability to concentrate. So this is just a little thing. And Brain Gym is one of the systems that I work with, and not even the most interesting one, actually, although I think I have fun with it. But there are a couple of other things that I do that are far more compelling in the results that they bring. Thought field therapy is one energy therapy technique. Tapas acupressure system is another. But before I get into discussing those techniques, which are really quite remarkable in their results, let me back up a little bit. Let me introduce myself, and let me share with you who I am, where I come from, and what I do, okay? I drink water, lots of water. That's one of the things I do, and I hope you do too. As Don said, I'm from Staten Island, New York, a place that most people do not even realize is actually part of New York City, sort of a backwater of the city itself. Been there for a long time, and I keep saying, when am I getting out of here? Why am I still here? I think the time is coming to move on. But apparently there was a great deal that I needed to do in that area, energies that needed to be anchored, and work that needed to be accomplished. My path started, it started officially in 1967, so for more than 30 years I have been exploring alternatives in healing, parapsychology, psychic phenomena, all kinds of interesting things. I mean, well, you know, you're all here because you're all interested in these things, as I am. However, very early on, I discovered that these external technologies were forcing us into a position of being dependent on something for our healing, for our health, for our balance. And I was really interested in exploring ways to change, to heal, to transform oneself so that we could not have to be dependent on anything, but would function as integral, total, whole, complete beings. My fascination moved from exploring parapsychology and matters like that to exploring the nature of personhood. Who are we? How did we get to be the way we are? What good is all this knowledge, all of this learning, which, like you, for 30 years, just taking it in, soaking it up, learning as much as I could, studying with teachers and masters and meditating and just doing everything. But what good is it all if one is still frightened? If you're still getting angry? If you're still addicted to food or cigarettes or alcohol or something that holds you back and keeps you from being free? Because that's really the problem with addiction, you know, is that you're not free. You're a slave to this substance, to this craving, or to this person. We can be addicted to people. We can be addicted to meditation. I know people who are. We can be addicted to anything that we give the power to be the source of our sustenance. So for me, my interest was finding the source of that sustenance within myself and helping others to attain their own way of knowing, being, and living the truth that we all read about and understand intellectually and know in our hearts, but somehow have not been able to live fully, completely, and totally. So while I started out as a teacher of meditation and spiritual growth, my focus began to drift more to the psychological realm. And that happened because of my work with meditation. Those of you who've experienced meditative states or altered states of any kind know that what frequently happens is you start to see things, images, pictures arise in the mind. There's a wonderful book. Well, actually, I don't know if the book is that great, but I love the title. The title is, "If You Meet the Buddha on the Road, Kill Him." Sometimes I like titles better than books. This is a case of that. If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. What this means is when you are in your meditative state and you're very peaceful and you're seeking to attain a level of oneness with spirit, frequently these images arise, and sometimes they're very spiritual, very religious images. People see visions all the time. Well, not all the time. People I know see visions frequently, and all kinds of symbolic imagery. The title, by the way, refers to the fact that if you're in meditation and these images arise, be it Jesus or Mary or Buddha, and you get stuck by staying at that level of dealing with the image and glorifying the image, then you are not able to be completely in oneness with God, because your mind is active here. Your mind is enjoying this experience and telling yourself how wonderful it is. I'm seeing this incredible being. But in truth, enlightenment is a matter of inner stillness and peace. So, in my work with meditation, these symbolic images arose which were very meaningful. Sometimes they were very frightening. People saw images of people with masks and ugly faces and demonic images, or sometimes they were psychic images that turned out to be representations of events that were about to happen. Things like this were happening. And it was because of my work with meditation that I was intrigued enough to start exploring the nature of symbolic imagery, and from there to the subconscious mind and the whole realm of personhood. Gradually, I began to work with people, and I discovered my own connection with spiritual guides who were directing this work. So for many, many years, I would say for at least 15, 17 years, my work was essentially spiritual therapy, in which I would guide you through various types of processes, therapeutic processes. Most of them derive from a meditative state, an altered state, where we would activate the subconscious mind to show you and give you the experience of whatever it is that's holding you back in your life. And in the process, releasing that, forgiving what needs to be forgiven, and experiencing a new quality of energy in yourself. And the spiritual therapy work, if I may say so myself, was quite phenomenal. People were opening up, people were releasing things that had been holding them back forever. Problems with parents, with relationships, problems with children, problems with career, with money, etc. Sometimes there were profound emotions that needed to be released along the way. While I was going along my merry way doing this work and feeling very pleased with the results, and in the process did a number of other things, wrote a book, opened a holistic center, a number of things that happened in my path for me. And when I closed my holistic center, which was about 4.5 years ago, I was actually taken out of circulation, literally. I fell, sprained 2 ankles, talk about the significance of body parts, and was told literally, stop everything. It's a little hard to make a living if you've got to stop everything, you know, and you're flat on your back. So I had to really take it very slowly and trust. And this was a tremendous lesson in trust. And the universe, you know, we read this all the time, the universe will provide, everything you need will always be there for you. I had to live through that and really know that I would have what I needed. And invariably, you know, just enough was always there. So I was seeing clients as I was doing this work, but all the classes that I had been teaching, nobody's showing up, nobody's registering, nothing's happening with the rest of my work. And I felt like I was drying up. Something was not right anymore. During the next 2 years, I was on a kind of spiritual retreat while still being in the world. Did a lot of reading, spiritual reading, a lot of journaling, and a lot of praying and saying, when? Give me something here. I know I'm here to do some very important work. Important not in terms of what the world thinks, but in terms of the ability to help people. And then, when the time was right, everything opened up. I found myself being drawn to doing trainings in several new energy therapy modalities. And the trainings were just opening everything for me personally. I understood, I knew. The minute I saw it, I knew it. I don't understand how it all works, and maybe you can help me with that when I start to describe some of these therapies that are really quite mind-blowing. The first of these is called thought field therapy. And I should say, by the way, a parenthesis before this, I had been asking for a therapeutic modality that would help people to open up, to heal, to grow, to get on with their lives, to do their spiritual balancing that would be fast and easy. That's my motto. It's got to be simple, and it's got to be fun, and it's got to work easily. Now I come across thought field therapy. Have any of you heard of it? Are you familiar at all? Anybody here? Great. I love it when people don't know what I'm going to tell you. It's a great surprise. Thought field therapy is a method that was developed by Roger Callahan based on the acupuncture system of meridians. I assume most of you are familiar with acupuncture, the meridians that run through the body. Most of us are aware that the meridians, or these lines of energy, these rivers of energy, have a direct effect on our physical bodies. We know our health is a result of the balance of these energies, the flow of this energy, and when there's a blockage, we become sick. Now, Roger Callahan developed a method to not simply release energetic blocks at the physical level, but to get deeper to the psychological level, the emotional level, the spiritual level, the causal level. And he arranged a method that is so simple that you would think a child could do it. It can get a little complex if you're not familiar with the process of awakening. But by developing certain algorithms, that is a sequence of acupuncture points which are tapped according to the particular problem that you're trying to release, you can heal the problem sometimes in half an hour, sometimes in 2 or 3 sessions. I watched a demonstration of someone who had a 20-year phobia of elevators. Now, a phobia is a real imprint on the energetic system, on the body-mind energy system that freezes you. In fact, most trauma, most emotional blocks are that. This phobia kept this woman away from elevators for 20 years. I watched a demonstration of this method, and she's tapping, and she's tapping, and she's tapping, you know, in sequence, and doing a couple of strange things, humming and counting. And I'm looking, and she's finished, and 20 minutes later, the instructor says, okay, now I want to see if you're willing to get on an elevator. And she said, well, I don't know, I'll try. Well, somebody accompanied her. She got on the elevator, she went down, she went up, she got off, she came back, she said, no problem. No problem. After 20 years. This method of thought field therapy has been extremely effective in releasing the effects of post-traumatic stress syndrome and all kinds of trauma imprints. Now, what's interesting is my understanding of human nature is all of us are living the result of some form of trauma. We may not have necessarily been in a war or suffered some blow to the head. We may not have necessarily been physically abused, but we all had experiences very early in our lives where we came to feel less. For some reason, whatever the circumstances, we came to feel unloved. This feeling immediately generates a defensive reaction to protect ourselves from that feeling or belief, because it becomes a belief. I feel unloved, therefore I am unlovable. If my parent is unable to give me what I need in the way that I need it, then perhaps no one will ever give me what I need. And then I grow up to go through life expecting never to get what I need, and you all know the result of self-fulfilling prophecy. So we want consciously very much to be successful, to be capable, to be healthy, to be abundant, to have all the good things in life. But we are blocked by the beliefs that formed very early in our lives. We are blocked at an energetic level, and we are stuck there, frozen in time. Now, here comes thought field therapy with a simple, rapid, easy, and effective method to release those energy blocks and to free you to become the person you were meant to be. Take a moment and consider how you would be right now as a person if you had never had the unpleasant and unfortunate experiences that you did have as a child. If you had had ideal parents. If you had had ideal circumstances to grow up in. We would be what we were meant to be, what we were created to be. We would be living our truth. We would be living the spiritual light beings that we really are. That we are in the process of ascending to right now. You know, the ascension energies coming into the planet are affecting us very strongly, creating tremendous emotional disruption wherever there are energy blocks. Wherever you are not free, wherever you are not loving, there is a blockage that needs to be released. I put out the call for a method. Show me a way to help people realign with their original truth. Be restored to wholeness and peace so that they may fulfill their true potential and become the God beings that they are. I learned of thought field therapy. I've had wonderful results with it. I will mention to you a client I had very recently who is a woman who is herself a healer, a homeopath, and who's trying to start a healing center in New York, has been blocked with obstacles every step of the way. Every which way she has been stymied. Now her intention is pure, she thinks. She's put out the call. She says, this is a good thing. Why can't it happen? I'm going to help people learn how to become healers. What's the problem? Well, first I did some pendulum dowsing with her, and in the process, we discovered, using another method, which I'll tell you about in a minute, we discovered that what was holding her back was a traumatic imprinting left over from her experience in a concentration camp during the Holocaust. I did not know this about her. I had no knowledge of her background. But it came up. Now, what is the connection between that experience as a child and now being unable to start a center or to open a business? The connection is everything is connected. Who you are, what you do, how you react, how you behave, the energy vibration you put out is coming from your innermost self. If you are blocked and if you have experienced pain, worry, fear, anxiety, insecurity at a time when you were just forming your sense of self, you grow up believing you will never succeed. In her case, the belief was, why did I survive and not the others? If I survived, I must have to prove myself, make myself worthy. And consequently, the effort, the trying, the desperation, the need gets in the way of a clear, free flow. Do you understand how that works? We all go through this. We've all had our own private holocausts. We have. And it's time to clear it away because there is no more time. We are now down to the wire, 1998. You know the time is coming. This is it. We've got to do it now, and we can't waste any more time. We've got to clean up our act. So this method now is one that works quickly and easily. And once you learn the tools, you can practice it yourself. And that's what I love the best about these methods. Because my goal is to empower you. I know that there are things that I can do that will serve to free you from things that you cannot free yourself from, because you know that's why we have each other, to help each other. There are times when we do need each other. Don, in his introduction, mentioned implants, entity release. Yes, I have done that. I've learned to do that actually quite recently, and that's a whole other story. I'll get to that in a minute. But yes, that work I will do for you, but I'm not interested in giving you a psychic reading or telling you what's wrong with you. I want you to find out. I want you to know for yourself, because you are all beings who contain within yourselves everything you need to know. You are a living library. You have all the information you need to help yourself to be healthy and strong and happy and balanced and loving and abundant, I might add. There's nothing wrong with abundance. You have that within you. The problem is you haven't learned how to access it, or something's been getting in the way. You've been stuck. So my goal is not only to guide you through the process of healing using these techniques, but to help you learn to take them home and continue using them for yourself in your own life. Thought field therapy led me to another therapeutic technique, which is, even if it's possible to believe, even more amazing. Developed by an acupuncturist in California named Tapas Fleming. It's called the Tapas acupressure technique. And this one is very similar to thought field therapy in its approach, but instead of using different acupuncture points and tapping for different problems, you use one set of points for everything. For everything. And it's a little funny. I'll demonstrate it. I hope I'm scheduled to do a workshop where I will be teaching these things. Using two fingers, the thumb and the ring finger, just above the corners of your eyes, the middle finger at your third eye center, and the other hand resting at the lower back of your head. If you hold this position and focus your attention on any issue or problem, you will immediately discover a deeper level of awareness arising as to the true nature of that problem. And then, following a series of steps with this system, there are actually 4 steps, you will be guided to release the origins of the problem, whether they are in your present life, in a past life, in your genetic history, That's an interesting point. When I first heard this, I said, what do you mean genetic history? According to Tapas' theory, we not only inherit from our own soul's history, we inherit the blocks, the issues, the problems of our ancestors. So if you had an ancestor, I mean, you can chase your genetic roots, if it were possible, back to, to 300 BC or whatever, because we have continued, right? Birth is a product of our parents and their parents, et cetera, et cetera. If we go back far enough, suppose someone 1,000 years ago was burned at the stake, and that ancestor died in a state of tremendous trauma. It's conceivable that the energy of that experience was transmitted down through the ages, so to speak, and you can still be dealing with that issue, and it's not really yours. Very interesting. So this Tapas system allows you to release these energy blocks from past lives, from genetic history, and also has the ability to release wherever it is stored in your body. This, to me, is one of the most fascinating parts of the issue, because our physical bodies don't become ill or develop problems only because of external influences. Granted, electromagnetic energies, pollution, toxicities, etc., are all affecting us. But we also know that some people can be affected and some not. Well, some people have stronger immune systems and some don't. Well, where does that come from? How do we get to be able to deal with the assaults from our environment? It is our spiritual strength, our alignment with truth, our capacity for giving and receiving love, because love is a real energy and power that enables us to maintain our health. If there is a problem, there is an imbalance at the spiritual level, which will affect us at the emotional level, at the mental level. Your thought patterns will be not healthy. They will be negative thoughts. Your perceptions will be off. You will not be seeing what is really there. All of these things are affected from these original blockages. So the Tapas system releases these blocks amazingly fast. Amazingly. I had a session on the telephone with someone the other day, which was very interesting, and it illustrates a point here that sometimes this work is so easy and so effective that people don't even realize anything's happened. This was a person who called me on the phone who has been stuck in his house for years, living off equity in his house, whatever, I don't know what he's living off. He's not worked, but he's running out of money and now he's got to work. And he's terrified of going out into the world. Now, he's got serious psychological problems. A traditional therapist would prescribe, who knows what, Prozac, and you name the whole alphabet list of psychological medications. He's on some of them. They haven't helped him. I worked with him. Is that 5 minutes?
Can you hold till we see what the tape situation is? Just a moment.
2 minutes till it runs out.
Okay, let me just, can I finish up this story?
How much time you got left on the tape?
It's running. Okay. I did this process with him on the telephone. He called me back actually later that day. He was in another place. He had gone out to look for a job. After this process, he actually went out to look for a job, and his complaint was, these jobs are too menial for me. And then he says, I'm wondering if this is really working, because I read, when you do this, I had done entity release with him too, I should mention that. When you do this stuff, I hear it's supposed to be absolutely miraculous, and I still have like a little bit of anxiety. I'm saying, you went out to look for a job, and you're complaining about a little bit of anxiety? You took a step, you went out, He couldn't, I had to teach him that he just went through a profound inner transformation, so profound that he didn't even realize that he was being healed. This is how this works. It is wonderful. I hope I'm scheduled to do a workshop where I can teach you some of these things and guide you through the processes. I do have one other thing to share with you. Before I came here, I was dowsing and meditating combination I do on what I would be speaking on, since I only learned I was going to be speaking about a week ago. So I thought, well, what am I going to tell these people? And I received a couple of interesting things. One was information which turned out to be this booklet, which I wrote in 5 days, which will be available at my table, Healing, Loving, and You, a handbook for healers. So I was guided to address the issues that those of you who are healers need to be more aware of. So that's that booklet. But I also received something else. I don't know if there's time, but I received a message. And are we on the tape still? Okay, well, maybe miraculously, you know, things happen. I would like to read this, and I would appreciate it if you would be willing to move into a more receptive mode and take a deep breath and just kind of release. You've been processing a lot of information, and allow it to just come through you and go wherever it needs to go. Breathe again. Nice deep breath. Breathe. I tend to be very experiential in my work. I prefer to guide you through your own experience than to lecture, although I've done that in the past. It was fun, but this is more fun. All right. You are all healers, ambassadors of truth. You are missionaries, armed not with a Bible, but with an inner living library of wisdom teachings. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to go out into the wilderness, the civilized world, and, quote, convert the natives, not by proselytizing, but by being a living example of love. To bring clarity where there is confusion, forgiveness and understanding where there is anger, rage, and violence born of fear. To bring calm and order where there is chaos. You do this by being a center of peace yourself, by being love in your contacts with others, everyone, everywhere.